Hi and welcome to the Kind Community Sustainability Podcast. I'm your host, Gian Avelli, and on the show we uncover the stories, tactics and skills of people doing great things for the planet and turn their experiences into practical advice that you can use to impact your own life and those around you. You know that around 300 billion plastic bottles are produced every year, with around 75% of them not being recycled. A 1 litre PET bottle uses 162 grams of oil, producing the equivalent of the CO2 emissions of driving a car for 1 kilometre, and around 7 litres of water to produce it. And then that bottle takes around 450 years to degrade. In today's episode, you will hear our conversation with Sukhi Sindhu, co-founder of Nobl Thirst. Nobl Thirst are the UK drinks brand that are unbottling the water market by combining an efficient, affordable and more sustainable supply chain that produces bottled water that uses less carbon footprint than the plastic alternatives. Nobl's UK sourced natural spring water is packaged in square cartons, which are 100% recyclable, 95% plant-based and proven to generate 41% less CO2. Their packaging being mostly made of trees, they felt it important to make sure that more trees are being planted than being used. So they're planting 1 tree for every case of 12 that's sold. Their sustainability journey doesn't stop there. Nobl are investing in zero CO2 emission transportation and a UK-based facility that's powered by renewable energy. They offset their carbon footprint of their workforce by planting trees and pay a real living wage to employees. Nobl's impact as a business is inspiring, and them committing to donating 1% of their total sales with 1% of the planet, and a further 5% of their profits being donated to charities and non-profits. Hi, Sukhi, how are you?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm brilliant. Thank you so much. So tell us the defining moment that drove you and your co-founder to start Nobl Thirst.
I think it was more of a series of defining moments, really, because my co-founder Rav and I, we're cousins. So we were having Sunday lunch, and as you do, these things take hours sometimes. And we started righting all the wrongs of the world and trying to fix everything at one sitting. And so we got to a point where we're like, okay, well, we started talking about products and actually fast moving consumer goods. And it was just like, well, so many people are concentrating on one piece of the puzzle. And that actually triggered something between all of us, and and we started thinking, well, actually, let's put a list of, things together. And we started the conversation. And for months afterwards, we'd come back to each other. Well, actually, because we quickly realized we're on the cusp of this green tech revolution, where everything can be done a lot better than it is right now. And actually, there is a correlation between lowering your carbon footprint and actually lowering the cost of the product. So we kind of put together a plan to build a complete supply chain that really reduces and cuts down a lot of the carbon footprint within the drinks industry.
Okay.
So there was a whole host of. That was about 3 years ago, by the way.
Okay, amazing. So I'm sure there's going to be a lot of listeners that are thinking, why bottled water and not tap water?
Okay, well, that's a really good question, right? Because it's like, firstly, we're a big advocate of tap water, right? And advocate of actually using reusable bottles regardless. So whether it's tea, coffee, tap water, Ribena, whatever it is you enjoy, if you can take it out on the go and that's convenient for you, please do that, because we, as you said earlier, we're using way too much stuff. But at the same time, we live in a society where convenience is one of the top factors in people's decision-making processes. So as much as we can urge people to use reusable bottles, there's still a huge market for convenience products. So what we aim to do is give people a sustainable alternative to other drinks. We all know water is healthier than most other drinks on the market anyway, right? There's no sugar, there's no calories, but so it's never a matter. It's not a matter of us versus tap water. It's versus us offering a more sustainable option than the 7 billion plastic bottles of drinks that we currently consume just in the UK.
So what has been, or perhaps still are, some of the biggest challenges faced when ensuring sustainable practices are an integral part of your business processes?
Well, I think for us, it's a constant learning curve. I've got a background at FMCG, food and drinks. My business partner, Rav, has come from a finance background. So we're learning every day. So it's on us to learn from other people in the industry. We work with sustainable consultants and bring people in that know more than us. Right. And it's kind of that is a big part of our journey. And I think we accept that this is not, it's not a finite amount of stuff you can learn. It's a constant journey that we can all do better every day. So you can do better, I can do better, we can all just do better. It's kind of what we talk about on a daily basis.
So you recently were at a global drinks conference and you were talking about your road to net zero carbon. Can you tell us a bit more about that journey?
Yeah, thank you. I hope you watched it. It wasn't it wasn't the most entertaining viewing, but it was really useful for people, because that journey to net zero is important, that we understand that offsetting is one way, that is a really quick way to get there. But it actually is not solving the problem, because the concentration, we're still producing all this CO2 and the concentration is getting higher and higher. So unless we're offsetting probably 7 times as much as we're creating, we're never going to solve the problem. So it's really about cutting down the CO2 before offsetting. At that point, though, we've got to remember everything uses some sort of carbon emission in its production. So, but it's about building supply chains, which is not the most sexiest subject in the world, but it's about building those supply chains that really reduce those footprints and installing principles within your business. So one of the things that we do within our business is, as well as trying to implement renewable energy and materials throughout the entire supply chain, we're also made commitments to not sell our products directly to anyone more than 1,000 miles from our source. So because drinks are heavy and they require a lot of energy to move. So we understand that actually we really want to reduce the carbon miles within the drinks industry.
Right. Yesterday we were speaking a bit more about kind of the decision-making processes that made you land on the current product packaging design. Could you explain some of those thought processes, say going from glass bottles, considering cans and that sort of stuff?
Yeah. So when we were in the process of thinking about the business and how we were going to structure it, for us, it was really important to understand, to have a metric. Both Rav and I have come from backgrounds where everything is measured, and you need to kind of. And so, rather than using vague terminology about our business, we're like, okay, well, let's give ourselves something to measure ourselves on, and that's why we set the carbon footprint, which is the biggest measure of change, is the biggest change we can make to reduce our footprint. So we started looking at that and started understanding quite quickly that it's about using renewable materials and energy. So whilst, yes, our products are made predominantly of plants, so that's the combination of things like obviously 75% paper, 21% plant-based plastic. It's really important for us that they are renewable, and we need to use as many renewable materials as we can. And like you said, we evaluated things like glass, which is a great material as long as you're using it lots and lots of times, because as a single-use product, it's heavy, quite carbon intensive to produce, and quite carbon intensive to recycle. So you've got to factor all these measurements in. So sometimes a material that's great for one thing isn't great for another. And it's just understanding those balances and trying to drive and using a metric like your CO2 emissions as a measure.
I mentioned in the intro that your you're offsetting, you're planting more trees than you use, and that the journey to net zero is more than just offsetting. It's making those decisions that are as sustainable as possible, getting down that carbon footprint as close to zero as possible in the first chance. Yeah. But you also commit to, what was the decision behind committing to offsetting more of your carbon than?
Well, firstly, because we need to. We know that existence is good for business, right? We know we want the humanity to be around for hundreds of years from now, rather than just corner ourselves into a CO2 disaster. So the reason we need to do that is because it needs to be done. So as well as offsetting the carbon footprint of our products, we're offsetting the carbon footprint of the people within our business as well. And so it's effectively trying to leave the planet a little bit better than we found it. And if we all do that, we stand a chance.
Right. Yeah. So there's often feelings of disempowerment because of the scale of the crisis that we're facing, and it seems that switching to reusable coffee cups, reusable bags, swapping to green alternatives sometimes feels like a band-aid solution over the irreversible damage that plastics has already created. As individuals, what would be your advice in tackling the war on plastics? What other things can we be doing in addition to these small life habit swaps?
My answer is there is no magic pill, right? It's going to be small things. It's going to be the combination of you doing those small things, me doing those small things, and everyone listening to this making those changes and combining those changes is what's going to make a big difference. If we're waiting for some magic thing to happen that will suddenly take everything away with virtually no effort, right? It's not going to happen, right? So let's all make little changes, because it is about little changes. And what we're doing is kind of one small change. So, you choose this over an alternative, and you're making one better change, and that's all you can do with every single action. And nobody's perfect, right? It's that old adage of every sinner has a future and every saint has a past, right? We can all do better, right? We can all do that little bit better every day.
Yeah,
and it's how you achieve anything.
Sure, and those tiny incremental positive changes, more conscious decisions, compounded up over the amount of times you take those actions, compounded up over the billions of people globally, will have a more.
And they become habitual, right? So they become habits, right? So the first time it's difficult, the second time you're thinking about it, the fourth and fifth time it's just a thing you do. So yeah, it's definitely about getting into those good habits as quickly as possible.
What companies do you take inspiration from, and which leaders do you most admire?
So it's a really good question, right? There are people all over the planet, like in terms of leaders. I think a big one right now that he didn't make it there, but I think Bernie Sanders in America is an amazing guy, right? Always fighting for equal pay for people, for more sustainable practices, tighter regulations on pollutants and polluters. And I think he's an admirable person to look up to. But in terms of businesses, and there may be some, but obviously Patagonia is a big one. Patagonia is, their campaign of "Do not buy this jacket" was a great one, simply because it just proved that actually, you can repair and mend. You don't always the solution isn't always to buy your way out of the problem that you have.
Yeah.
And IKEA are doing a great job of opening stores that sell their secondhand furniture. But as much as these big names that we all know, local communities, local shops, the local businesses that are setting up zero waste stores and historically, for one of our shows, actually, we use this great business down in Southampton called the Southampton Wood Recycling Centre. They use they use reclaimed wood, and we built one of our stands for one of our shows using reclaimed wood, so that it was just like, well, because it was just as easy as going down to B&Q. So it was like, okay, we'll do the reclaimed stuff. So it's just about using, understanding, using local, and trying to reduce as much waste as we can.
Sukhi, what would you like other companies to learn from Nobl Thirst?
Well, seeing as we're very early stage, it would be a bit grand of me to say that people should learn from us. But what we hope we will start to lay down is a benchmark for thinking about things differently. Embracing green tech, understanding that actually, if we look at things as the big picture, they can make commercial sense as well as sustainable sense. And just trying to get that balance a bit more equal than it is right now.
And for some business leaders that are perhaps apprehensive about making or believe that sustainable alternatives or sustainable choices lead to less profit, could you explain a bit more about what you've found in your journey?
Well, this is actually really interesting, because I think that's where we have to move away from thinking about things so one-dimensionally. We can look at things like the triple bottom line: people, planet, and profit, which really shows that at the end of the day, the importance of making profit is great. If you don't have the people, there's no point in having the profit, right? And the people need somewhere to live, so you need the planet, right, to have the people, to have the profit. So everything is reliant. So when we talk about profit, we have to understand it's only reliant on the societies that it's within, and then the environment in which those societies live.
And what's next for you? What are you most worried about, and what are you most hopeful for?
So we have literally just gone from a rebrand of our Drinks Cubed, which is our previous branding, to Nobl, which we feel reflects our vision a little bit more accurately. So it's, with any startup, it's going through that rebranding stage, kind of that rebirth, and trying to say, okay, well, we've still got the same ethos, but we just look slightly differently. But that's also the most exciting thing as well. Right, is seeing the response, what people think of the new way we look, the new way we sound, and it's like having, it's like growing a beard. Right, you're the same person underneath, but you just look slightly different. So yeah.
Sukhi, I personally love it. Seeing the transformation from Drinks Cubed to Nobl Thirst is wonderful. I love the color schemes on it. So. That's my personal opinion. Let's hope the listeners agree. Really appreciate it today. Now is the quick fire round. So try to answer as quick as possible. What does sustainability mean to you?
A fairer future for everyone. Something's better that benefits everyone equally.
What's the best business book you've read?
Donut Economics. Really interesting about how we need to think about everything within, and a lot of stuff isn't priced into our economic model.
What was the author of that one again? Was it Kate?
Oh, now you're asking.
Is it Kate Raworth? Yeah, Kate Raworth. Donut Economics, Kate Raworth. It's a great book. What's your favorite sustainable hack?
Oh God, that's a good one. It's well, right now it's making sure that I'm using bigger amounts I'm buying stuff in bulk, so it's less packaging. I'm a big porridge fan, so I'm buying enormous bags of porridge, and it's less packaging waste, and I'm making it in big batches anyway, so it's great.
Wonderful. What would be one bit of advice you would give to your 20-year-old self?
Don't worry so much. you know, things are going to take time. And if we, yeah, and like we've spoken about earlier, it's just, you can't conquer anything in a day. It's about habits. It's about building those good habits, and
it's all going to be okay.
Everything's going to be okay. Yes, absolutely.
Sukhi, please tell us where we can connect with you and with Nobl Thirst, and how can the listeners support you?
Wonderful. So our social media platform, our social media handles are still at Drinks Cubed. So on Insta, but they will be soon changing to at Nobl Thirst. We've got a holding page up on the site at the moment because our website isn't officially launched. But please do go on to noblethirst.com and sign up for the newsletter. You'll receive 50% off your first order when we actually launch. And it will keep you informed of all the stuff we're doing.
Amazing. Thank you so much, Sukhi. Really appreciate it. Thanks for today. Bye for now.
No worries, man. Take care. Thank you very much.
If you're inspired by my conversation with Sukhi, please remember to subscribe, leave us a review, and share it with anyone that you think would love to join our community. Remember to live what you listen and to put the action of what you've learned today, because knowledge isn't power, it's potential power. And you have to use that knowledge for it to be powerful. Together, we can make the sustainable attainable. I'm Giannavelli, and this is the Kind Community Show.